Hey, what's up, everyone? How's everyone doing? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the stream. This is Diagnose Your Chess. This is a weekly show that I do on this channel for Chess24/CoChess. And actually, today we're going to be doing a special version because I'm going to open it up to the audience and invite you guys to submit your games if you want to get your game looked at on the stream. So no pressure, it'll be real chill. You know, we'll take a look at your game, and if you want advice, I'll be happy to give it to you guys. But it's not going to be any big deal. If you have an interesting game you want to look at, my one requirement is that it has to be a game that you either lost or you drew. No wins, all right? There's too many people, you know, submit their nice win and they're like, oh, analyze this. Like, no. You need to have either won the game. No, sorry. You need to either have drawn the game or lost the game. And if you want to submit a game, you can either post a link. Not sure where links can be posted, like YouTube or Twitch. I'm following both chats. Or you can send it to me on either on like Twitter or I'm on Discord. You can find me a number of different ways. You can also whisper to this account, Chess Dojo Live. And I will see it because I'm on that account. And that's me. That ambulance is on my end. So yeah, if you guys are interested in getting your game analyzed, feel free to whisper it on Twitch or post it in the chat. And yeah, it will be fun to analyze some games. Let's see here. I know there's a bit of a delay, so I'll give you guys some time on this one. In the meantime, actually, maybe I'll play out a couple moves. I have, they can be games played on any site, doesn't matter. It can be chess.com, Lichess, can be over-the-board games. I'm happy to analyze any games you guys are interested in getting some feedback. Oh, no links. Oh, sorry, yeah, Joel Cato, I don't see the link there. If you can whisper it to Chess Dojo Live, I can see it that way. I'll post it in the chat. And I'll be happy to take a look at it. In the meantime, I'm just going to start playing through some of my old games. This is a game I played, like, I think back in 2000, so I was like maybe 8 or 9 years old. I'm interested in checking this one out. Apparently, I was playing black in this game. I don't even know what my rating was. I'd have to look it up. D5, bishop f4, bishop b5, probably bishop b4. Oh, we got a game from Joel Cato. All right, sweet. Okay, Joel, tell us about this game. Looks like it was a 10-minute game, and I think you lost this one. That's okay. And yeah, what do you think? What do you think happened in this one? Meanwhile, I'm gonna send it in. Petrov says, I don't know why I like to play online chess only when I've been drinking. I don't understand. I know I'm going to lose, but I still play. Well, you want to have fun. I mean, it's understandable. I would suggest this for you, my friend. I would suggest maybe having 2 accounts. One for your serious games and one for your fun games, you know, your casual games. Oh, the game didn't load in. One sec, guys. Let me grab the PGN here real quick. So if you have two accounts, you kind of protect yourself from your other self, if you know what I mean. And you can keep those accounts separate and keep those ratings separate. So you'll have your serious rating and your fun rating. And who knows, maybe your fun rating will be higher. Could be an interesting experiment. I doubt it, of course, I doubt it, but who knows. All right, so we got a game here from Joel. We're going to play through and see what happened. Joel says they blundered on move 16. Okay, totally understandable. It is a 10-0 game, right? So this is a rapid game. Got to keep in mind we don't have a lot of time. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad I could help, because I mean it's fun to play. So it's like it doesn't make sense to deprive yourself of playing, right? So you might as well play and have fun. And yeah, then if you're worried about your rating, well, there are ways to separate for that. So Joel says they had an overwhelming lead, but got aggressive and missed the mating threat. Don't know how to simplify when I'm winning. I always seem to complicate things. I have another game where the same thing happened. Actually, Joel, I'd be happy to look at that second game as well. I don't know how many games we're going to have submitted. Maybe not that many. So if you want to send me the second game, maybe we can look at it too. Because when we do game analysis, it's important to try to look for patterns. That's something that I often do on the show in general, is that I look for kind of typical mistakes. So take, bishop e5 check. Here Joel's playing white, knight c6, and knight e5. Okay, going after the pin, bishop d7. We take the bishop, queen takes, castles. So far, I think you've done everything totally reasonable. Bishop d6, check, knight e7, knight c3, castles, takes, knight e4, interesting. Knight cannot be taken. Bishop e3. Bishop c5, yeah, doing great. Doing absolutely great here. Knight g6. And we grab the rook. Knight c5. Oh, we just ran into queen d6. Oh, it happens. Takes here. Knight f4. And it was all over, huh? Queen takes g2, queen h1. Nothing to do. Right, so this move, knight c5, walks into this queen d6 threat. But actually, we'll come back to this. But question for you, Joel. At this point, you know, you see queen d6, you see h2 hanging. It's a shame we blundered, but at least, you know, we are up the exchange, right? So if we give the knight and we don't get checkmated, the game at least goes on. Granted, it's not a great position. Queen takes c5, 2 pieces for the rook. We're losing, right, as white, but black would still have to work here. You know, it's not like the game is over. And maybe we keep the bishop, like bishop f1, for example, try to keep the king safe, put the bishop on g2. I mean, certainly black would have to show like reasonable technique to convert this one. No question, black has a big advantage. Like I would imagine black is winning here, but there is something to be said about trying, you know, to make it as difficult as possible for your opponent. I don't know what the time situation was like. Let me see. So knight c5, yeah, we only had 3 minutes or 4 minutes on knight c5, so not that much time. Black goes queen d6. And then we played knight takes b7 pretty quickly. So I would say, honestly, that was kind of a bigger mistake than your knight c5 move, right? Knight c5, definitely a mistake because it's like a tactical blunder, but that's going to happen. But once your opponent hits you with queen d6, you got to pause and realize like, uh-oh, I've missed something. You got to like reevaluate. And all of a sudden the situation has changed, and that's just too bad. It's like we had a good position, now we're in big trouble, but you may still have a chance, right, to save it. Not that you're necessarily going to save it after g3. Odds are you probably end up losing anyway, but over time, if you make things more and more difficult for your opponents, you'll kind of pick up on these little chances. But let's go back. Okay, of course, knight c5, more of a tactical blunder, and yeah, we just got to be careful. We got to be aware that our king is without defenders, and black has this bishop on c7, and as soon as they play the bishop to c7, we got to just kind of be aware that this bishop is always pointed at h2. Much like white's bishop on d3, we know this one is super dangerous with all like the Greek gift sacrifices. Bishop pointing at h2 is just as dangerous, obviously, and of course when the queen combines with the bishop, then that's a recipe for disaster. But I thought, middle game was definitely well played, so I think first part is ready, like getting to the good position, like that's phase 1, converting, that's phase 2. But you don't get to phase 2 without first getting to phase 1, right? So it's important to get good positions, and then over time you'll be able to improve your technique as well. Interesting game though. I'll say one thing about the opening here: bishop b5, knight c6. A lot of times white actually doesn't even necessarily want the bishop pair. In fact, white will just castle. So this is just like another way to play the position. And then on bishop d6, the idea is to, let's say, give rook e1 check, the knight goes to e7, and then take on c5, and basically leave black with this isolated queen pawn. And from here, you can kind of play it in a number of different ways, but knight c3 makes sense, bishop g5 is a move. I'd probably start with knight c3, and our idea is to just kind of play very actively against the IQP. So bishop g5 comes out, queen d2, rook a d1, and so on. Basically another way to play the position. Let's see. Rook e1. Yeah, I thought you played it absolutely fine, Joel. Knight e4 was kind of a nice idea, right? Like using the pin and then fighting for the c5 square. And then bishop e3, I thought this is a reasonable decision too. If black trades, then they're trading pieces off and just leaving themselves with the isolated pawn, which is of course kind of nice for white. The more pieces that come off, the easier it is for you to kind of attack this one. So I like this move. He played bishop c7, now bishop c5. Very aggressive, and yeah. Okay, we know what happened from here. Alright, hey Chess Gains, yeah, if you want to submit a game, feel free, whisper to Chess Dojo Live. I want to look at one or two more games here from Joel, but please do submit it, because Joel has more examples of blowing blowing the advantage. Maybe we can try to help. Okay, next game. All right, we're white again. And this was another 10-minute game. All right, Petrov. Now, Joel, a lot of players will play this position a little bit more aggressively, and they'll actually castle queenside. So the idea will be to put the bishop on f4, queen d2, and then go queenside, and then double pawns keep the king pretty safe. And then you attack on the king side. You go h4, you look for knight g5, and you basically target black's king. When we castle kingside, it's hard for white to get much of an advantage here, because we basically have no real lead in development and no real advantage in the structure. So basically black is kind of okay. Although it is playable, basically just going to be a equal position. But if you want to pose a few more problems, I would suggest a move like bishop f4 here, and then queen d2 and castling queenside. Now maybe bishop d3 is inaccurate because like here after rook e8, for example, we have to deal with this check, which is kind of annoying. So if we just briefly refine the move order, I would say maybe it would be worth it to start with bishop f4 in this position. So then on castles, you can play queen to d2, and then on rook e8, you're in time to just castle. I think this is how they play it. And then your other bishop is probably going to go to d3, as you put it, because this is just a very, very natural diagonal for the bishop. And then again, the plan is like h4, knight g5, and going for like this kind of attack. So that would be my suggestion, but let's just go through the game. So rook e1, knight c6, knight d4, totally reasonable. Black trades, and we get kind of an equal position, but actually white has a little bit more space here. So we're doing kind of well. I feel like there was maybe something else we could have done, but okay, h6, bishop d2, queen c6, rook a d1, bishop d5, and black kind of asked to get hit with c4. Nice, we find it, c4. Nice job. Takes d5. So black is forced to sacrifice a piece, but our bishop is really strong. Now bishop takes h6. Nice tactic, nice tactic. If gh, there's bishop h7 check, and you win the queen. So takes queen h5. What happens here? Rook e3 takes here. Oh, we end up giving back the bishop. Do we have to do that? What was the thought process here, Joel? Was there a reason you didn't like just pulling the bishop back, like bishop f4 or something? Oh, you just thought you would have rook h3. I got it. I gotcha. Yeah, you play rook e3, expecting to have rook h3, bishop h7 check, and winning. But of course, rook h3, not possible. Yeah, it feels like a tactical blunder. I'm looking at the game. You spent a minute on rook e3, so you definitely spent some time calculating here. So I can't fault you for playing like too quickly or something. So just kind of like a tactical slip. Yeah. San Miguel, if you want, you can whisper to Chess Dojo Live. And yeah, I'll try to get through as many games as I can. Okay, that's a bummer. So here, rook g3, and then black has gotten the piece back, and basically we don't have enough here for white. Just black has too many pawns. Wow, bishop takes b2. Nice trick. Rook h3, rook e1, and yeah, unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, this one is definitely right, like a visualization thing, I would say. Yeah, but let's go to this last moment. So we hang the mate here, right? Rook h3, rook e1. This feels very like tunnel vision-y to me because like at this point, actually, after bishop takes b2, you still have almost 5 minutes on your clock, right? And then rook h3 came really fast. So that's way too fast. I mean, you're allowed to blunder mate, right? Like that's gonna happen. But the thing is, it's like if you have time on your clock and it's a really sharp position and your opponent has just played like sharp move, bishop takes b2, you got to spend time. You know, even if you think you're winning or you're losing, either way, you got to spend time because who knows, you might be missing a good move, you might have something, you might have a better way to resist, you might have a forced win. You just got to spend time. Like, regardless of the position, spending more time will give you a bigger chance of finding the right move. Because here, I mean, the situation is bad. Rook e1 is a pretty critical threat, but it's not like resignable. Like, if you just defend against this threat, black still has to work to like figure something out. Like, you can consider queen d1, you can consider rook to d1. I understand rook d1 is not the move you want to make, right? Your rook was trying to go to h3, but the game continues and you have better chances of winning because black doesn't have an easy win themselves. Now they have to figure out how they're going to convert the position. And I mean, chess is a difficult game. We know how hard it is to win a one game from our point of view, right? Because we get a winning position and then we often mess it up. And it's the same thing for the opponent. Like, they also have a tough time winning the game, but we have to spend the time to kind of make it hard for them. So it's really important to just spend time in sharp positions, because there could be a move you're missing. There could be only one possible defense, and if you don't find it, you just lose immediately. And over time, those chances, they kind of add up, and they add up into rating points. And this is how, this is what makes the difference between players of like different levels, is that as you go up, you're able to find more and more little resources and chances, and that basically adds up to more and more rating points. Okay, we got one more game. Let's take a look. I hope this is helpful, Joel. And again, full credit, guys, for submitting games that weren't successful. That's how you improve, by learning from your less successful games. Awesome. Okay, next game we are playing black here. So let's flip and let's take a look. Okay, 4 knights, d4, take, bishop c5. A lot of players like bishop b4. They consider this one more solid, but bishop c5, as far as I know, is fully playable as well. So totally fine. Okay, f3. This move is not always great. Castles, bishop g5. We go rook e8. My instincts in this kind of position, as like an e4, e5 player, is to just immediately blast the center open. And all we need to know to make this move is that white's king is on e1 and the pawn is on f3. And so any opening of the position has to be kind of like in black's favor here, or very, very likely. So rather than set it up with like rook e8 and d5, I think you want to start with d5, because this is the more violent move. This is the move, like, who knows, maybe you're threatening to take on e4. It's basically just the more aggressive option, and it makes things more difficult for white because they have to figure out how they're going to deal with this break. Whereas when you play rook e8, it's just like slightly less flexible, because then d5 is still coming, and only then do we have a possible threat in the position. So I think here, when the opponent's king is in the center and we've already castled, I think we're almost always justified to just blast it open with d5, especially with like the f pawn. And usually on e5, we should just have faith that you'll have some ideas here with like rook e8 with the pin, and white won't be able to punish you. Queen e8 is also a possible move in these kinds of positions, which is kind of funny, unpinning the knight and also pinning the pawn. And if bishop takes f6, g takes f6, we can just look at this one. We can see like the dark squares around the king are weak, but it's very hard for like white to take advantage. And in the meantime, we're just ready to take the e5 pawn. We have the only dark square bishop on the board, so it's actually very little chance that white will be able to do anything to us. King can go to h8, rook g8, and in the meantime, this dark squared bishop is just going to dominate the entire board. It's just like an absolute monster of a piece. So this is a possible option. Or on e5, I think rook e8 is probably fine too, because it looks weird, like our knight is pinned, but so is the pawn, so it's very hard for white to kind of get out of the pin and do anything to our knight. So like f4, for example, we could go h6 here. We can also, I feel like you can even play a move like queen d7 just to get out, but let's say h6, bishop h4, and I feel like, yeah, even g5 even g5 could be good. Can you imagine? But queen d7 is probably fine as well. Basically, we have options here as black, but this would be absolutely amazing. I think fully justified too, because if takes, rook takes e5, and like we take on g5, I mean, we're so active here. Bishop e2, we can even think about putting something on g4. So this is just kind of my instinct when we have this position, to just try to immediately blow open the center. Okay, question in the chat from a savage muffin. What happens after f4? Oh, it's a good question. Yeah, f4. So this defends the pawn, but it also gives black a tempo to move the knight. So you could play, for example, like knight d7, and then our next move is going to be f6. And this f6 pawn break is going to be really, really difficult for white to deal with, which is often the case. When the king is in the center, you want to just open lines for your pieces. And this is the point where pawns kind of start to matter less and less. Like the pawns, double pawns, extra pawns, like whatever. It's all about just who can get more open lines against the enemy king. And especially when white has made these weaknesses with, like, you know, e5, f4, very extended pawns. When the position opens up, there's going to be all these open lines and diagonals. Yeah, so black's pieces are kind of taking over here. Okay. So rook e8, I mean, totally reasonable move. I'm just really nitpicking here. I'm just saying d5, I would just be bold and go for it right away. Queen d2, h6, understandable. You're putting the question to the bishop, and white decides to take, which is probably not right. I'd be very surprised if white gets enough here. So this is h6 turned out to be a really strong move because you kind of provoked your opponent into making a pretty bad decision. I think white should have played like bishop h4 or bishop e3 or something. Actually, do we have this tactic? Bishop h4, knight takes e4? Is this working? I've seen this like on Chessable or something. It's kind of a cool trick. Actually, I think it does work. Bishop takes d8, knight takes d2 check, king takes d2, rook takes d8. We got the piece back, and then we snagged the e4 pawn. Was that your plan, Joel? Did you have this one in mind? Because that really makes h6 quite a strong move, because it kind of pushes white into this trap. And so the idea here, the reason we need h6 is because the bishop on h4 is hanging with check. So if the bishop was on g5, then white would play knight takes e4, and it would be kind of unclear, maybe just not working. But with the bishop on h4, knight takes e4 doesn't work because we just take. And okay, white's king is busted. Oh, cool. Nice. Yeah, especially whenever the queen is on d2, bishop is on g5. This is just a trick that we just have to look for in every position. And here it's like all indicators point to yes. It's like market indicators. So yeah, h6 was a very crafty move. Yeah, very nice. His bishop on h4 is hanging. So that means white probably should have played bishop e3. But on bishop e3, I guess you just take and you go d5, right? This looks like this would be tremendous for black. So h6, I think, turns out to be a really nice move. Maybe white should have just taken on f6, but then he's giving up the dark squared bishop, right? So black of course has to be happy here. And if white castles queenside, I mean, we have this like ready-made open b file, and yeah. Well, after g3, I think we just take the queen. So h6, bishop h4, knight takes e4, g3. I think we just take on d2 with check. And so white doesn't even have a chance to take our queen. So we're happy there. So he takes. Now we take. Gotta be happy. Queen takes. Bishop f8. Yeah, absolutely essential move. Like, whenever we're getting attacked, if we have a move that just immediately brings a piece back with tempo and hits the queen, usually good. Bishop g7. And now white tries to create some play, but we've got a piece up, so we should be good. Queen b4. So we're going for the counterplay. But knight e4, all of a sudden things are not so clear, right? White is now pushing h6, and this is a big threat. We're trying to figure it out. Knight e4, bishop takes. Seems like everything was okay. Why not knight takes e4? I didn't quite get. This seems like just a blunder. A blunder on white's end. Huh. But what happens here is we end up going for this counterattack, but then the position all of a sudden gets out of control. Right. So, yeah. And I think it might have been much simpler to just simplify, as you're saying. Exactly. So, what do you think should be the move here for black instead of queen b4? No, Sharkma, actually, I just wanted to try like a more like kind of open thing where I look at multiple games. No, Joel, I don't think you understand. Queen b4 is good, but the point is you're going for a very complicated position. The problem is like, okay, you missed the tactic with queen takes c3. Fair enough. If you find queen takes c3 in this position, then you win the game. Fair enough. That's totally true. But let's analyze the time usage. So we'll try to get right. So we have 5 minutes at this point. We spent 1 minute on knight takes e4. And yeah, I mean, maybe if you spend more time, you can find it. But it's tough because, like, again, in Blitz, you're not always going to find the right combination. And this is one of the things that it's like a big difference between Blitz and Classical. In Classical, you might have like 30 minutes in this position. You know, you take your time here, you probably see queen takes c3. I don't think this is like the most difficult tactic for you. But in Blitz, you know, your blood is pumping and like time is ticking. Yeah, I mean, I could easily miss queen takes c3 myself. But I think the thing that we're noticing here is that like when you go for this sharp position, but then you don't find the right move. Actually, knight e4, white didn't react to this in the right way, so I'm not sure what happened from here. Already, this should have been blowing the advantage, because after knight takes e4, all of a sudden, white is just has like a tremendous initiative, like h6 coming, and we don't really have a ton of we don't really have enough play. Like we can give queen b4 check and play d5, but white is just pushing h6 and gonna be mating. So back here, yeah, as the chat suggested, queen e5. This would have been like the safe way to play. Not that this is necessarily the best move. Objectively, queen b4 is probably stronger, but the thing you got to remember is that like in a blitz game, you kind of want to keep your life simple. If you go for complications, you increase the chance that you blunder later on. Now, if your tactics are good, I mean, you can do that. Like, it's totally legitimate. But then your tactics have to, they have to score in the end, right? So that's the issue, is that like you're playing super ambitiously, but then the tactics aren't keeping up. So either you really got to start pounding the tactics, and especially in games, making sure that you're very concrete and looking at all your forcing moves, or you have to adjust and try to play a little bit more solid, where the idea is just to challenge the enemy pieces. So queen e5, knight h7, also totally reasonable. Just challenging the queen, forcing white to give ground. And then the queen is not as active, and you can try to slowly improve your position. Another move like to follow up would be like king h8 just to unpin. Then you can even play the rook to g8 if you need to. Your bishop can move out of the way. And basically, once this dark squared bishop starts to be used, in fact, opening up on the long diagonal seems kind of nice. Here, rook takes b2 certainly does come to mind. This dark squared bishop is just unopposed. It's an extra piece. It's a very, very good bishop, and it doesn't feel like white's pawns are going to be able to counteract it. So I like your position in the middle game. I like your position in the end game. In fact, white might need to trade here just to avoid getting mated, but then your dark square bishop should slowly kind of like dominate matters. So yeah, the adjustment would be during blitz and rapid games to try to focus on solidity, and this is what a lot of blitz players do. Even the ones that are like really, really strong, like IMs and GMs, they kind of understand, like when you play aggressively, you're taking a risk, you know, you're kind of banking that you're going to find the precise moves later on. And if you're really confident, you know, you can and should go for those positions. I'm not telling you not to. I'm saying you absolutely can. But if you're not so sure, if you keep messing up, then there is a certain value in just trying to like keep it solid, simplify. Your opponent has an active piece, you trade it off, right? You just challenge your opponent's pieces. Like you did with your move, bishop f8, just a few moves earlier. Your move here was bishop f8. I mean, absolutely perfect move. Like, just securing your king. Maybe objectively we don't need this move, but that doesn't matter. The point is, in practice, it's like it's going to be safer if we challenge our opponent's pieces. A lot of players actually would just play knight h7 already in this position. Just not giving white any time to build their attack, just immediately challenging the queen. And check this out, actually getting ready to play queen g5 check next move. So this would just kind of force the queen trade, it seems, and already you would just get a very comfortable endgame where white doesn't have enough for the extra piece. So this might have been just the simplest way. Just trade queens, go into the endgame with the extra piece, and then just enjoy enjoy your extra dark square bishop. This would have been it. San Miguel whispered to Chess Dojo live. But okay, let's move on. Hopefully that was helpful. We also had a game from Chess Gains. Let me copy this one. And I will paste this one in. Yeah, Yasser's plan, winning chess strategies when you're up in material. Keep your king safe. Keep your pieces active, right? And yeah, when you have extra material, it's very hard for the opponent to do anything. Because either they trade or they have to give up ground. And either one you're happy with. Okay, for some reason this game is having a hard time loading. I'm not sure why this is happening. Max, would you mind just sending me the link to the game? I don't know why, for whatever reason it like can't read. These chess sites, they like can't read each other's PGNs. It's very sad. Yeah, like Elite Chess PGN and Chess.com PGN. Actually, I think I got it now. I think I got it. ChessBase is the great equalizer. Okay, there we go. There we go. All good. All good. All right, so here Max is playing white. This is a training game from earlier today. 45-45. Cool, cool. And Max, your rating is around, okay, 1960 USCF, and black is around 1920 FIDE. So very, very close in ratings. Awesome. And, okay. So queen c7. We got a con. Very interesting opening. Castles, knight c6. So yeah, actually, as far as I remember, knight c6 in this position is like not a great setup. For this reason, take on c6, and black doesn't have like a great way to recapture. If b takes c6, it's just not a good version of these positions. And you can play with like f4, you can go like knight d2, knight f3. And you kind of get a pretty healthy attacking setup here with white. Yeah. No, I mean, this is the best part about training games. You just get to get some experience in a new structure and like pick up some ideas. I would definitely encourage you to look up some games in this one, because most players as black, they try to play more like hedgehog style. So they'll go d6. You can play like queen e2 here or c4. And they'll play knight f6, c4. Well, I don't know if c4 is the idea, but that's how white often plays this one. And then black will usually put this knight on d7 and either go like full hedgehog, like bishop e7, b6, bishop b7, or the modern ways to play with g6. So the next time you guys play this opening, that might be what your training partner does. I think this is how most of the grandmasters play this position, though it's not very natural. Most players at like below GM level are just gonna play like bishop e7 and just play like a typical hedgehog, because this is what the Con Sicilian is all about, just kind of playing a hedgehog type of setup, and basically, you know, just having a good like counterattacking setup. Yeah, I mean the line actually is, I like this line for white. I think it's very, very playable. Like you bring your knight out to c3, you play f4, king h1, bishop d2, rook ae1. Very, very simple. And then once you get all that, you look for one of three moves, either e5, f5, or g4. One of those pawn moves is usually good, and then you just have to figure out which one to do. What is wrong with b takes e6 and prepare d5? Generally, not much. In this position, I do think white kind of gets the best version here of the structure. Black played dc6. So after bc, I don't know exactly what white's best move here would be, but actually you could play c4. Maybe this is the problem, because if black plays d5 here, it's going to be way too open too quickly. White will just take twice, and it's very unlikely black will be able to survive this. So maybe c4 is kind of the issue here. And then black isn't able to play d5, has to play like d6, e5. But white can anyway fight for space with f4. Not a huge expert in these positions, so maybe it would be better to look this up in a database. I'm sure there's games here that you can take a look at. Okay, but he goes dc. And now a4. A4 I'm not sure about. I'm not sure, honestly, if you need this tempo. But it is an interesting move. I just don't often see it in this kind of structure, so I'm not totally sure about it. Max, you're at the level where it's like your best friend is like the database. You just have access to millions of games played by the world's best players, and that's where you can pick up a lot of info. Let's see how you play this one. Yeah, I feel like f4 is kind of the more straightforward approach, and black goes b5. It's not the huge deal. Like let's say here, bishop b7, knight can probably go to d2. Knight f6, and somewhere you prepare to play e5, maybe queen e2, queen f3. The idea would be to one day try to get e5 and knight e4, even possibly at the cost of the dark squared bishop. Yeah, no, I think a4 is totally reasonable. In fact, it is kind of annoying if you can get this grip like with a5 and bishop e3, bishop b6, or like knight d2, knight c4. You can definitely fix this b6 square. Actually, maybe you should have. Maybe after knight f6. Well, you see, you play bishop e3, e5, h3. Oh, and black played, oh no, bishop e7. Oh, here we played a5. So we'll kind of see how this plays out. So bishop e6. Then we go f4. Takes. And queen d7. Huh? Oh, wow. This was a really sharp game. Huh, didn't want knight d6 check. Oh boy. Take. Oh man, a lot happened here. A lot happened. Yeah, f4 might not have been great. Like black maybe just goes bishop d6 even. And it's hard to find. It's actually hard to find what white does here. Because we're in danger of getting left with this isolated pawn. Yeah, so f4 is strategically it's risky. So f4 is a move we do when we're like playing for the attack. Yeah. So if knight d2, are we worried about like rook d8 or something, and then we don't get knight c4? Oh wait, we have bishop b6. So there's no rook d8. There's just bishop b6 here. To me, knight d2, I don't know, feels like very natural, and then try to get the knight to c4, or maybe the bishop to b6. Oh, I see, knight d7. Yeah, let's take a look. So let's say knight c4. Maybe knight c5. Yeah, who knows? Yeah. It's kind of annoying. Rook d8 coming. I don't know, maybe white can afford to give up the bishop. I think you could definitely analyze this position like a little deeper. Like maybe it's not so bad. But I guess that would suggest that this a5 plan is not quite in time for white. And then instead it would be better to yeah, maybe knight d2 here is like a little bit more to the point, because you still kind of want knight c4 and putting something on b6 even without a5, because black still can't really go b5 yet. Yeah. Well, yeah, again, definitely an opening to investigate further and looking at some games. Definitely worthwhile here. But let's see what happens now in the actual fight. So king h1, queen d7, knight d2. Now, okay, position is looking good. Like if black is playing h5 and not castling, then we have a lot of pressure here as white. h5. I guess e5 might be possible too here. Knight d5, knight f4, or knight e4. Maybe not. I'm not sure actually I like this that much. Like I'm thinking knight f4, knight takes c5. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. It's an idea. Knight c4 is probably super safe. So rook d8. Actually, now e5 makes a lot of sense. Knight c5. If we give check, there's going to be exchanges. And bishop h3 is also, yeah, in the position. Man, really complicated. I have a hard time finding moves here. Knight c4. Alright, queen e1. I like queen e1. Of course, actually, yeah, just getting out of the pin. No, I actually like this move a lot. Knight g4. We got b4. Okay, here we didn't give knight d6 check. What was the problem here? Or what was the because I guess we can go like knight d6, e5, and defend the knight. Mm. So what did you miss exactly though? Because it's kind of like that. Just he takes everything on d1, like goes knight f2 check, or and I should ask how much time did you have at this point? Do you remember? Because that will determine how bad the blunder is. Is how much time you had on your clock. If it's under a certain amount, then you're off the hook. If it was about 12 to 15 minutes, yeah, inexcusable. I'm sorry. Because I know Max, you have ambitions to get to 2200, and like, yeah, 2200, 12 to 15 minutes, more than enough time to avoid this blunder. So it is a bit unusual because it's like, of course, you know, with the knight on g4, I would imagine this, you know, arrow is like hanging over your head the whole time. So it's not like you just didn't see knight f2 check anywhere. But we just didn't quite we didn't quite blunder check sufficiently, I guess. Well, it happens. The nice thing is you know, you do this in a training game, and hopefully you do it less in tournaments. Yeah, we all need like some wake up calls sometime. Happens in Blitz often. Like you're just playing, everything is going fine. All of a sudden your opponent like hits you with a tactic you didn't expect, and you're like, oh, right. I'm supposed to calculate in this position. Yeah. Yeah, what to do? Unfortunately, well, in sharp positions, this is the risk we take on, right? In sharp positions, one mistake can be game ending. And this is what attracts a lot of players to playing kind of safer openings like d4 and the London system and things like that, is that you can make mistakes without just like losing the game on the spot. And it's what kind of turns players off to playing things like the Open Sicilian, because the Open Sicilian is super sharp and volatile, and white is often just getting into trouble after like one inaccurate move in the opening. So it's understandable why players, they kind of like, you know, they want to take a more practical approach and avoid these positions. But on the other hand, it's like, you know, your job is to try to pose problems with white, and so, you know, you got a winning position here. It's like, we didn't win the game, but like next time you'll probably convert in a better way, or you'll be able to, you know, be accurate until the end. So it's still worth going for these positions, of course, even though sometimes accidents happen. And yeah, it just shows the importance of just staying tactically alert as much as possible. I wish I could give you more advice on the opening. You know, a lot of times I'm able to just say like, yeah, just do this, this, and this, but I'm honestly not sure exactly how white is supposed to handle this structure. So this is definitely one I would encourage you to look at a little bit more closely, because I'm sure there's some games here with some strong players, because they might be playing like f4 really quickly. Try to understand what plan they're playing for, because white does have different ideas. You know, there's like the a4, a5 plan, but you can also play for like e5 and getting a knight to e4, maybe even putting the bishop on b2. It could be like different setups here for white, maybe playing the pawn to c4 to cover the d5 square. So there's a lot of possibilities here. Yeah. Hope that helps. Oh yeah, and you were asking about f3 here. I think in general, yes, f3 can be a move. But then whenever black plays like knight d7, bishop c5, of course, got to be careful about trading off the dark squared bishops. But if we can kind of handle this one, then it is okay. Like, let's say knight d2 here, queen e1. Let's say take. castles or something. White goes a5. Yeah, you can still fight for an advantage here as well. Yeah, f3, queen e1, and queen f2, definitely a very reasonable plan in these positions, because you control a lot of like important squares, especially this b6 square is often just like a target for white. Who knows? I mean, maybe black doesn't play knight d7, maybe he goes bishop e6 first, and then you might have time for like queen e1 and queen f2, and then you stop bishop c5, and then your knight can again use like the d2 c4. These positions are really interesting. I mean, there's a lot of nuance because black structure can be okay. So Biden says black giving away the dark square bishop is not good for black. I don't know. I mean, these positions are they're not exactly like, you know, 100%. In some positions it's good to trade bishops, in some positions it's not. So it's like, I don't like relying too much on hard and fast rules. It kind of depends. All right, thanks, man. Let's see. We got some more suggestions, or some more games. Yeah, I got one from Steve Nash. Sweet, thanks, Steve. Hopefully you're still in the chat. Looks like this was a 15-10 game. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, hey, what's up, YouTube chat? Sorry, I haven't been following what's going on here. If you guys want to submit games, you can either post the link in YouTube or whisper it over in the Twitch chat. All right, Steve, you're still up. Cool. So can you let me know which side were you playing in this game? Were you white or black as I loaded in here? Playing white, cool. All right, let's take a look. So this is 15-10, and both players here. Okay, white's rated around 1960, and black is 2040, so a little bit higher, a little bit higher. And we got another. Wait, is this the same game? Hold on. Okay, this is the same game. My bad, my bad. Why didn't the game copy? That's crazy. Hold on, we got Yawn of the Dead. Alright, import. That should work. Okay, there we go. D4. Alright, so Steve is playing white. And we got a QGD. Okay, classical exchange. This one I do know a little bit about. So very reasonable setup for both sides. H6, bishop H4, knight D7, bishop D3, C6, knight G2. The classic. This is how Kasparov always liked to play the exchange Carlsbad positions, with the knight on E2 and the pawn going to F3. So rook E8 castles, everything normal. Now black goes G5. Very questionable move. This one is really, really risky. Bishop G3, knight H5. So here black is just like, I mean, just obsessed with the bishops. Absolutely insane. Yeah, just does anything to go after this. It definitely can't be good, because whenever they take here, I mean, they're leaving themselves with so many light square weaknesses that you can just take with the knight and then play bishop f5, trade off the light square bishops, and then you just be like, where are your two bishops, huh? Where are your two bishops? So this is definitely not a good strategy. I guess you have a tactic here. I don't know, Steve, if you checked this one with the engine yet, but it looks like white has a nice trick actually to win the game. Let me go back a move here. Knight H5. with this one, knight takes d5. That's a nice shot. This one is thematic, actually. There's a famous game, I think it was Alekhine against someone, where he has knight takes d5, bishop to c7. But the real point is that we have this Zwischenzug. After knight takes g3, we're taking on e7 with check. So without that, the tactic wouldn't work, of course. So that's an important detail. Knight takes d7, then we take back on g3, and we won back an extra pawn. So I definitely don't fault you for missing that one. That is a very surprising shot, but a very cool one. So a good one to keep in mind in these kinds of positions like QGD. Whenever the bishop is lined up on this diagonal, yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one to know. There are also variations, for example, where white tries to play knight b5 with a threat of knight c7. That's very annoying. And then if black takes, bishop c7 again traps the queen. I don't know how to make it work. I think any reasonable move here for black, like knight f8, covers against the threat. Let's say black goes like king g7, for example. We try knight b5. I'm not sure if this one is actually going to work, but yeah, I think it's pretty strong, knight b5, and knight is just coming in either d6 or knight c7. I guess the rook can get out with rook h8, but still knight comes into d6, f5, and that's kind of painful for black. Maybe even knight c7, maybe, possible. Probably not. Probably knight d6, knight f5. But yeah, that's a nice one to watch out for. Anyway, knight h5, you play f3. F3 is very reasonable. Takes, knight takes, knight f6, rook f e1. I'm not sure about this rook. Steve, what was the idea for the other rook? And why not bring the a rook to the e file? Because this one is kind of how, like, usually white chooses between rook e1 and rook d1. Maybe you wanted your rook on d1. I'm not sure. But now that black has kind of like weakened the king side, I feel like the rook really belongs. Like rook a e1 really makes sense, or rook a d1 to support the d pawn. Kasparov actually really liked rook a d1 in these kinds of positions because it would help him prepare e4, where the rook kind of lines up against the queen. Here I'm not sure. Here my instinct would say rook a e1 because like black weakened the king side, and so we just want to play e4 very quickly. And the other idea would be to just play bishop f5, which I'm not sure how good this one is, but it would be kind of logical just to trade off the bishops and try to get the knight to f5. So this one was possible as well. Steve says, I wasn't sure which rook to put on the e file, but I guess also wasn't sure if it would be appropriate to go for the minority attack. Right, so yeah, and Zobayan also says, well, the rook goes to b1. That's true, the rook often does go to b1, but my feeling is like once black has played all of these moves on the king side, especially g5, I mean, you can play on the queen side if you want, but like, you know, this is kind of opening up a big opportunity on the king side, right? Normally white has two plans. Either you play e4 or you play for minority attack. Here they've played g5. It makes the king side play a lot more tempting because they've weakened the king side. So if we can open the center, then black's king is going to start to feel really weak. But let's see what happens. So rook fe1, bishop d6, knight f5. Okay, makes sense. Take, take. Now we have opposite color bishops, but we also have some dark square weaknesses. So it's not like white's position is super amazing here. Some queen c7 is pretty annoying. Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong, Steve. I mean, Engine might say something completely different, but of course, I'm just giving you my honest take on the position. E4 makes sense. Takes, takes. Now black plays queen b6. Rook a d1. Okay, now our setup makes sense. So now it's like white's position looks great. Rook e8, and do we go e5? Oh, we can't go e5 because of the pin. But maybe we can. Maybe there's like knight a4. No, not so clear. Yeah, definitely not clear. I was thinking e5, but then black takes, and threatening to take on d4. If we take like this, knight a4, there's rook e1 check, and then takes, king f2, queen a5. Probably not working. White's position just too loose. So we went here. Bishop e8. Now e5. Looks awesome. Queen c7. Hoping white takes. G3. Why not kick the queen out first with knight a4? That's a good question. Let's see. If knight a4 here, let's say queen a5. So the rook on e1 is hanging, so e5 black can move, but we do get e5, so I kind of get it, yeah. Yeah, I like this knight a4. I think that makes a lot of sense, actually. I mean, like, black doesn't lose the piece. Like, they can go back, but the important thing is that we got e5. And then you can even just go back like knight c3. And we have excellent control over the center here. Like, let's say queen b6. Then I think just like moving the rook or something, or queen f2. Queen f2 is a nice move here because it unpins two things. It defends the rook and it unpins the d pawn also. Yeah. No, knight a4, great idea. Just reversing the move order. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, but we get e5, so things are good, and then somehow things fall apart. So c5, we push. Oh, and then black just takes, and now it's just like goodbye dark squares, and black just takes over. Oh, brutal. I'm sorry this happened to you, Steve. I'm sorry. Such beautiful pawns and just ruined. So what was right here? I guess some unpinning move, huh? Like maybe moving the rook and trying to take on f6. Like rook e2 or rook f1. Let's try rook e2. And then the idea would be to take... Oh, but what's happening here? We let the rook... Actually, we let the rook off the hook, right? Let's play rook f1. And then if take, we take on f6 and we hit the rook. Bot CLG. Well, good question. Yeah, so here in this position, the rook on e1 is hanging the whole time. So this is kind of tactically what's holding black's position together, is this guy. So, and I mean, this one, this one's also hanging. This one's... So g3 is an excellent start. g3 was very good. And now white needed to find like another unpinning move. I mean, it's a hard move to find. I mean, I'm just analyzing the position. I'm not making any like this is just, I'm telling you, this is a difficult position to play. So I wouldn't feel bad about misplaying it. But that is instructive. We unpin and then we get the rook off of the e file. So now e takes f6 is finally a threat. And just concretely cd4, ef6, the rook on e7 is hanging and black doesn't have time to take on c3. If this check, let's see. Can we do here? Bishop e4, black takes, rook takes, queen g2 is kind of unclear. Maybe that's okay for white. We can also play queen g2 actually, it's probably just safer. Like so. And I think we're okay here, yeah. Queen c3 also work. But wait, how do we get... So the problem is, let's say we go queen d2. The problem is, it's not just about keeping the rook defended, it's also about black being able to take and avoiding the fact that the pawn on f6. So when black takes here, take... They get to take... Oh, you meant queen c1. Oh, okay. So queen c1, Again, black takes, we take here, and then they're able to trade everything off. And then maybe take on c3 here. Although, I don't know, here we have queen e8 at the end. Oh boy, the tactics keep coming, guys. So this one not so easy. This one actually we are... Yeah, this one's working for white. So queen c1 maybe another way. Because we take a piece, the rook is hanging. If they take on c3, we take on e7. And if black takes on e1, then the back rank is hanging. So there's no time to take on c3. So queen c1 actually kind of a cool idea. I think this might be working for white as well. Yeah. Knight b5, this one I think runs into queen c6 check. So we got to be careful allowing this to our king. But, yeah. Well, this is the life of a d4 player, Steve. This is a typical life of a d4 player. You know, you work so hard, you work your whole life, f3 to build up this pawn center, every move preparing the advance. You finally get it. You know, you've outplayed your opponent strategically. You've gone in the center, you've won the battle. Rook d1, everything like beautifully posted. Your opponent just waiting for you to execute them with mercy. King h1, I mean, you know, like take your time, very patient, and then one bad move, you know, everything collapses. It's just the typical life of a d4 player. But the good news is you're on the right track. You know, you're playing good stuff. You're following like good strategy. Of course, chess is a difficult game. It gets very concrete, especially blitz and rapid. Anything can happen. But if you continue to play well, you will get your chances, and the points will eventually come. Of course, this is just one game, so I can't give you any huge diagnosis based on this one game. But I would say keep doing what you're doing. Be consistent, like continue playing, you know, your same openings, and you'll get a lot of instructive experience from your own games. I mean, this was just one game we analyzed. Hopefully you got some good ideas out of this one. You can do the exact same thing with every game you play in this line and really build up a lot of valuable experience. Even just knowing like this one trick, knight takes d5, this might win some games for people watching. Thanks, bot. This show happens every Thursday and has been happening at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. until 5 p.m. 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. Actually, previous episodes are up on my personal YouTube channel. If you search IM Kostya Kavutskiy on YouTube, you'll find previous episodes of Diagnose Your Chess. Although previous episodes are a little bit different, and in previous episodes I work with students kind of one-on-one, and we break down like a bunch of their games and really get deep, and then I give them some actual recommendations for what they should do. Yeah, of course I understand it's late in Europe. This is definitely a very US centered show, but the good news is that it never gets booted, you know, for like Champions Tour or something. The other Chess 24 show sometimes, like, you know, they get run over, but this show happens every week. No one wants the slot in Europe. They're all asleep, so we get to hang out and do some good old-fashioned chess analysis. Yeah, absolutely, Steve. Any advice on games to study in this line? Definitely. The big guy was always Kasparov. So if you haven't seen Kasparov's games in this exact setup with the knight g2, I would definitely check those out. He has quite a few. I mean, I don't think he put his knight on e2 in like literally every single game, but his games in the Queen's Gambit Declined are definitely very, very important to be studied, because Kasparov was like a unicorn. You know, he was a d4 player that was just like a brilliant attacker. And a lot of d4 players, you know, we don't always feel super comfortable with like attacking chess, but Kasparov, he showed the way. Like, you control the center and then you launch an attack and you kill your opponent. So I think he's the man to study. There are obviously other good players as well, and maybe the second one I would mention is Magnus. Magnus has had some really instructive games in these structures as well. Obviously, he's Magnus. A couple others, Wesley So. I think he's pretty well versed in these positions as well. Without having ChessBase, where do you find these games? Chessgames.com is a good site where you can find millions of games from the world's best players. And I'm pretty sure you can search on there, games Kasparov played in the QGD. Yeah, chessgames.com, great resource. Free. Absolutely free. So yeah, Kasparov, Carlsen, Wesley So, Aronian as well, actually. Levon Aronian, huge D4 player. Definitely worth studying his games. Okay, guys, let's see. Can we do one more game? I think so. Yeah, DM Hokie, let's do your game. Hopefully you're still around. Oh yeah, you just sent it in. Nice. Let me copy it in real quick. Yeah, absolutely. 365chess.com. I think I've used that site. Yeah, I imagine they have like a big database of games. What I like about chessgames.com is that their users make all of these like collections, and you can like search like best attacking games, and there's all these collections like of people just making compilations of like games that are really interesting. Or you can search like games with like endgame technique, and someone will make 100 games of like good endgame technique, or like Karpov's best attacks, all kinds of stuff. So you can find all kinds of interesting collections that people have already made. Okay, let's get this game in. I think this will be the last one for the show. But I might do this format from now on, actually, because it's kind of fun to just have like an open game analysis and everyone can learn from everyone else's game. So if you didn't get a chance today, I'll be around next week as well, and we can do it then too. Okay, so in this game, DM is playing white, and this was, what was the time control here? Looks like, okay, 15-minute game. Cool. All right, bishop c4 against the Petrov. Black takes on e4. Yeah, maybe they might be able to get away with this, because knight takes e5. They go d5, and they secure the knight on e4. Okay, bishop b3, queen f6, and knight f3. Well, not a proud move, right? We have to retreat, but what to do? Everything was hanging, so definitely the best move. So against the Petrov, what I would recommend, maybe this line is probably fine for black because they get this d5 and they just control the center. Well, you can do another line that's kind of just simple and interesting. Oh, you usually play knight c3. Oh, do you go for the Vienna typically? Like against the Petrov, I mean, of course, there's many ways to play. I kind of like this one. I think this is pretty simple. You can go d4. And then if takes, the idea is to push e5 and kind of get this pawn going, and then take on d4 with the queen kind of more actively. This one is very playable. But we don't have to focus on the opening too much. And then if knight takes c4, white's idea is to take with the pawn and then develop like bishop c4 and so on. But anyway, you're mainly Vienna player, which is totally fine. So I guess instead of 6, you would play f4 here, which is a fun line. But okay, let's keep going. So I think we get out of the opening relatively okay. Takes. D takes c3. Now that's good. I like this. I don't know where you learned this, DM, but this was a good recapture, because a lot of players would go bc, trying to kind of keep the structure closer to the center, but then you're just losing so much time getting your bishop out. So DC was absolutely the right move. Maybe you had totally different reason for doing it, but opening up the bishop in this case was definitely the right approach. G5. Yeah, position looks all right. Knight e5. Knight went back. Bishop f4. And we get some trades. I think I have a suspicion of where this game is going. Okay, you finally got c4 in, but at this point it's a little bit too late. I mean, white took on c4, but probably should have played d4. And if black had played d4 here, then our bishop on b3 would have been very, very sad. Oh yeah, well, DC3 has been around for a while. I don't think it can be credited to any one person, but I get what you're saying. So in the Petrov, of course, the main line nowadays is to go back and then play knight c3 in this position, and then take and go d take c3. And nowadays, this is all the rage. And yeah, white goes like bishop f4 here, or bishop e3. We had this in a previous game, actually, one of the ones that Joel sent in. So the bishop should go to f4, queen d2, white castles, bishop d3, and then we're super active. And then in the Vienna, this can happen as well. With knight c3, knight f6, f4, d5, I think take, queen f3, this line. When black takes on c3, you could take bc here and kind of strengthen your center, or you can go dc, which is really interesting, and just focus on development and like opening up the bishop, and just saying like you don't care about the pawns, it's all about just getting the bishop out. So yeah, this is a very, very cool idea to know. Because of course BC just feels like the natural choice, but in many positions DC is actually the right way to play. Right, so yeah, DM, exactly what you're saying is correct. Basically in this game, it appears that white's bishop just got stuck on b3, and it was just hammering against this pawn structure that's very solid. And when a bishop is hitting a pawn that's defended by another pawn, it's basically just like, you know, we say biting on granite, because it just like can't do anything. Like you're biting granite, it's just too solid. Like you're never taking on d5. So at this point, white's main plan needs to be to open up the bishop, and the only way to do that, it seems, is to somehow play c4. So one idea would be for white to go like rook e1 and try to play c4. But I think we had a chance a little bit later. Actually, apparently we could have played it here. Oh, well, this is nice. Yeah, actually, this was the moment to do it, because we have this amazing mate. This is why strategy and tactics are always combined. The strategy is that we want to open up the bishop, but the tactic is that queen d8 is checkmate, bro. So that's kind of cool. But if you don't see the trick, then you c4. I mean, it looks right, like it looks like you're just losing the pawn, and then like bishop is getting trapped, right? Without the checkmate, of course, the idea wouldn't work. So that's kind of nice. But I think later we again we had a moment right here when our knight was on f4. We again could have played c4 in this position, taking advantage of the fact that if black takes on c4, we can throw in knight takes e6. So take. We're hitting the rook, so black is not in time to take here. White is going to be taking more material. Black will have to recapture, then white goes bishop takes c4, and then you just breathe like the biggest sigh of relief ever, because your bishop is open, black has this weak pawn, you can drop this guy back to b3 or d3, and you are just solid. Solid. So white plays for two results. Either you win or black holds this, most likely. So yeah, we needed to realize that the bishop is stuck, and then liberate it with whatever means necessary. We played a4, which is a good move in the sense that it stops black from playing b5. If black had a chance to play b5, then our bishop would really be dead. Like, for example, let's say we played some move like knight to d3, just some random move, and black has a chance to play b5, then our bishop might just be shut down for the rest of the game, and that could be really bad. So yeah, there's a famous game that I would encourage everyone to check out if you haven't already. Capablanca versus Winter. Actually, Winter was white against Capablanca. I think this might be the game you guys are talking about from... I would imagine it's in one of Chernev's books. If not, then he overlooked a real brilliancy. Very, very important game. It shows like how to play against a bishop that's kind of like stuck on one side of the board. Because the problem here is that white's bishop, if it doesn't get out, it basically doesn't communicate with the king side, and it's just relegated to like controlling these two unimportant squares. Whereas black's bishop is free to just kind of wander around. Of course, the knight is extremely flexible too. If you haven't seen that game, that one would definitely be worth checking out, as it can kind of will show you what can happen when the bishop gets stuck on one side of the board. I'm sure there's like a million YouTube videos on it. If you just Google Winter Capablanca, I'm sure there's YouTube videos on it already, so I won't show it. So a4, a5, rook fe1, knight c5. Yeah, black is playing really well. Like, he plays a5, just everything is doing good. And now it seems like it's too late to play c4. We're just not able to get it in. Let's see, what happens if we take? Then black maybe takes. And let's say we take this one, fe, and yeah, now when we play c4, black is always just going to push past with d4 and keep the bishop closed. And this is just, yeah, the worst bishop we could have. There's like threats of d3, the bishop is possibly hanging, but it's basically just extremely passive. And yeah, it looks like this is a good version of things for black. So unfortunately for white, I think we're already in big trouble here. But let's see what happens. So c4, so he takes. Big mistake. Could have played d4 and shut us down. Takes on c4. We take on e6. That's good. And now we're fine. Look at that. We're fine. We were sweating bullets for nothing. Now the bishop is opened up and we are okay. Black trades off one pair of rooks. And we have kind of a classic rook and bishop endgame versus rook and knight. g5, good move. And we go into this rook endgame. So this one feels very drawish. Okay, offering the king and pawn endgame. We probably don't want this one, as black is going to have the outside passer. Engine says it's drawn, but this is always very dangerous when you allow your opponent the outside pass pawn. So from white's point of view, we basically never want to allow this. So we definitely keep the rooks on. That's the right choice. So f3. Okay, apparently we blunder somewhere. King e4. Whoa, hold on. Now we're doing well. h5. And, oh, we hung the pawn. Oh, you went the wrong way. You had the right idea. If you go rook d1 here, I think you're actually on top, because you have the same trick, except black can't block. Man, you had it with the instinct. Your instinct was right. Like, you got to move the rook and give a check, but you just went the wrong way. So black can't take the pawn. If he takes the pawn, he loses the rook. This is, of course, game over. And that would mean that he's going to push h4. But now we get rook g1 check. King has to go to the h file. Not so good. And, like, you're actually better here. Might be winning, because, like, both pawns are strong, but our king is actually closer to the center. So this is such a funny thing that happens sometimes. Normally, when we think about the king and pawn endgame, the outside pass pawn is killer, right? Outside pass pawn, super strong. The king has to defend against it, and then the other king rushes towards the other side of the board. Here, what often happens is both rooks end up giving themselves for the pass pawn. Like eventually white is going to push forward and black will have to give the rook, and black will push forward, and either white will stalemate or have to allow black to promote and give the rook. But then when both sides end up giving the rooks, white's king is actually going to be the one closer to the remaining pawns. So that's why white should be winning this one. We can play out like a sample line. Like let's say, whoops, not rook f7. Let's say rook goes to f8. We'll push. Let's say king h2. Let's keep the king on the g file, or stuck on the h file. h3. Push here. Let's go here. Let's push this one. h2. Okay, now white has like a couple of different ways to win, but let's just keep it simple. And now, okay, black is in like stalemate and has to start giving up their pawn, so this is like easy win for white. But just to show, for example's sake, let's say we just had this position and then both kings end up promoting. This is kind of what I'm talking about. We end up in this position and white's king is just a little bit closer, and that just makes the decisive factor, and black is not in time, and that's it. One tempo is decisive in these positions. So it would be game over. And not in time. Yeah, so Stockfish says it's winning because Stockfish sees that after rook... I mean, it should have been a draw. I mean, the game was like very equal for a long time. But black here actually ends up playing himself into a losing position because he allows white to all of a sudden get a very strong pass pawn. And if we find this move rook to d1, black actually has no way of stopping the f-pawn anymore because we're giving check and then we're pushing and then the f-pawn is winning and black's king ends up stranded. So kind of like a random thing, you know, that happens. But sometimes when players over push, they end up actually in a difficult endgame. But objectively, I would say you play this one really solid. Like, probably should have been a draw. If I take another look at this rook endgame real quick, there's not a whole lot you really have to do here as white. I get the sense that maybe you were panicking a little bit. Actually, you're fine. You know, you don't really have a lot of weaknesses here. Your king is in the center. Your rook is active. So if all you do here as white is just like keep your rook active, very little black can do. Now, I don't think white is better, so we can't really like fight for an advantage here. But if you keep your rook active and annoying, then it's always going to be able to harass the enemy king and also harass the enemy weaknesses. And this makes it difficult for black to really make a lot of progress. Because if black like starts pushing h5 and you give this check, for example, and then go to the h file, this is actually bad for black. Like, you never want the king stuck in front of the pawn like this. Some players do this because they're trying to like promote the pawn, but this is actually horrible because now the king is cut off, blocking its own pawn. White's king is active and white is again winning in something like this. So this would be a way that black can just like lose the game, or white's king just starts walking forward. And notice that white's king can just kind of casually walk the pawn up, whereas black's king and pawn are a lot slower because the king is just like in the way, whereas white's king and pawn are just strolling forward. So any kind of rook endgame like this where the enemy king gets cut off is usually very nice. Not to mention possible like checkmate ideas and stuff like that. But that's only if black really pushes hard and tries to win. Black can of course keep the game much more solid with king to f5, just keeping the king in the center, and neither side should really be winning here. You know, game continues to be equal, but of course in blitz time, rapid time scramble, anything can happen. DM says he always panics. Yeah, you know, what can you say? Blitz is hard, and when the time runs out, I think I said this last night on the stream, like the strongest of players, you know, will mess up the simplest of positions when they have little time left on their clock. So it just happens to everyone. All you can do is keep playing, keep practicing, and you'll get this experience and this like, you know, you see players like that are not that high rated, but they've played a lot of blitz and like online chess that they're just very comfortable with the mouse. They're comfortable when they're low on time. They can see the position without their brain kind of like panicking and their eyes like glazing over. I get it. I get nervous too when the clock is ticking down. It's just like you're just like your blood is rushing. Like you stop seeing the board. You stop seeing what pieces can do. No, I totally get it. My only last bit of advice is just try to breathe. When you feel yourself getting worked up, try to breathe and like just be present and just focus on just simple calculation, very simple calculations. I want to give this check. I want to do this. Try to keep like the whole board in mind, and yeah, just take it easy, as Jesse likes to say. Take it easy. Okay, guys. Hopefully that helps. Yeah, Capablanca Chess Fundamentals, great book actually. I think one of the better books written earlier. That's gonna wrap it up for the show today. And yeah, again, we do this show every Thursday. We're going to be back next Thursday, 3:30 p.m. Pacific time on this channel. And if you want to see this full episode or previous episodes, they're on my personal YouTube channel. So you can Google that and find that as well. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. This was a lot of fun. It's always great when chat is active and we have games to look at. It's useful for you. It's fun for me. I get to see like what games are like at different levels, and I get to improve my own sense of like chess and how to make good moves, you know. Yeah, I don't know, I was thinking about streaming a little bit for the dojo. We're trying to get to 8100, guys. If you want to follow my regular channel, I'll just give myself a quick shout out. You can follow Chess Dojo Live. This is where I do most of my streaming. We're actually trying to get to 10,000 followers in the near future, so we need your help. So if you guys want to see me or the two guys I stream with, Grandmaster Jesse Cry, I am David Pruis, you can follow our channel. We do a lot of game analysis and instructive stuff. We're very friendly with CoChess. So yeah, hopefully you guys can check that out. Oh right, I can't shout out Chess Dojo Live, and I don't think I can give links, but it's Chess Dojo Live. That's the channel, twitch.tv. It's in the Twitch chat. Click on me. Click on me to follow the channel, and yeah, hopefully you guys can find it. All right, y'all, take care. Have a good one.